1.
All right. Welcome everyone to a new season of the Cult of Larry Draft League. We are kicking off our power rankings. Today I am joined by Helix Fossil.
What up?
Hello, hello. And this is, of course, the cheater himself, P. McGee, here to talk today about the Initiate Division, some of our newer coaches looking to make their mark, a couple of returners looking to make their way up in the league. But we're going to kick things off here. We got 14 teams to go through, and Helix is going to offer some really great thoughts alongside myself. So I think we should just get into it. What do you say?
Let's do it.
All right, we're going to go in draft order here. So this isn't any sort of indication of people's rankings, and we're not really going to give numbers for initiate. That's generally been how we operate. We want to focus more on just talking about the team builds, talking about maybe some concerns we might have, some things we really like, and then some things for them to keep in mind this season, whether that's results in free agents transactions or just with how they prep to maybe help give them some useful pointers. But do you want to read off the team here?
Yeah, this is GDP and his draft. We got Iron Valiant, Meowscarada, Corviknight, Arcanine Terra Captain, Cleaver Terra Captain, Mega Blastoise, Nidoking, Weirdeer, Cryogonal, Misdreavus, and last but not least, Dragonair.
It might be least.
It's
It might be
probably least.
least.
It's definitely least. It's a
um,
great looking mon, just not great.
it is. So there's a lot to definitely like this team, and a lot of fun versatility to work with. Valiant's a really fun mon. Does a lot of things. You can make it physical, you can make it special, you can make it both. It's got setup for both. It's got the calm mindset. It's got the swords dance. Meowscarada is good speed tier, good power hitter. They make a pretty good tandem, I think. And then Corviknight's a really great pivot core. Really, the whole like first seven picks, I couldn't possibly have a complaint with. They're all pretty solid mons.
Yeah, I haven't seen Cleaver do well in draft yet, but it on
No.
but on paper it seems like it should be fine. The typing's rough, but I'm interested to see how it does, and I do like the idea of it. And yeah, the first 7 of this draft I think are really strong. I love Meowscarada, Corv, Arcanine, the Intimidate, Teleport Out is nice, and obviously the bulky U-turn on Corviknight's incredible. So I like
Arcanite's one
this
of the
draft.
better. Yeah, Arcanite's one of the better answers to Valiant just because it can stop the Moonblast spam just by typing alone, and then with the Intimidate, it keeps physical sets in check. So not only do you have a pretty good mon in your team, you also take away one of the better Valiant answers around.
Yeah.
So that's a win-win. Speed tiers are pretty solid. I'm not going to say spectacular, but they're pretty solid. We got three over 100. Arcanine at 95. Cleavor was a great Scarfmon at 85 alongside Nidoking. Mega Blastoise is a pretty great mon overall. Uh, you don't have tons of hazard control, but you have the best one in Corviknight, so that's pretty solid. You got some spinners with Blastoise and Cryogonal.
Yeah,
Uh, there,
it's good. There's not
yeah,
much to really dump on. I want to see how Weird Ear does too, because it's another one on paper. It seems like it could be pretty good. The Intimidate, Sap Sipper um, ability here seems not bad, but again, I've never seen it drafted
it's
and used.
so untested. Yeah, it's one of
Yeah,
those that it's like it's been it doesn't really have the best stat spread, and that's really been its issue. It's got great HP but bad defenses. It's
yeah,
got decent mixed attacks but terrible speed. So it's not particularly great in any one department, but it's got enough going on with it, and it gets that legacy move pool via Stantler
yep.
that it has even larger move pool options, or it could just be like a toxic spammer. So lots to go with there. Mischievous and Dragonair seem mostly irrelevant. I'd be surprised if they showed up. Mischievous could, in theory, but I just can't see a matchup where none of the above eight are better answers. Above nine are better answers.
Yeah. Yep. And
Um,
I think the Terra captains here are interesting because I obviously couldn't. Valiant was banned and rightfully so, and
yes.
you're not gonna put Terra on a Protean mon most of the time. So it kind of left
No, it's a
you
waste.
with yeah, it kind of left you with core of Arcanine, Cleaver, and Nido. I probably would have gone Nidoking, but I do see Arcanine Cleaver being a good set too. You know,
Yeah, I'm on board with the Cleavor. I think that's a good pick
yeah,
because as you already said, the typing is one of its biggest hindrances. So the ability to get off of that typing into something more useful should do Cleavor some wonders. And I believe just because of how the format is, it has access to Roost.
it does.
So you get to a better typing, you have Roost access. It's got decent, it's got as much bulk basically as Scizor.
Yep.
So you can do a lot in terms of turning it into some kind of bulk set in certain matchups, or just get a more useful typing, so you don't have to wear a helmet
Or
or not helmet.
boots.
You don't have to wear boots. You don't have
Uh,
to run boots to pivot around and do what it wants to do because you could be like a ground typing or something and
uh,
not care about rocks.
yeah, I think
Um,
makes Choice Band 130 attack, sharpness real dangerous
oh yeah,
if you can get rid of the boots issue with a spamming U-turn. So that'll be I'm interested to see
absolutely.
how GDP does with it. It'll be one I'm really gonna look that and Weird Ear, the two I'm gonna really look out for to see how they do.
Yeah. I think overall, I think we can both agree this is a pretty great draft.
Yeah, I
Just
like it.
be interested to see how he uses it.
Yep,
I think we can move on to the next one.
perfect. Let's go on to Hypno. Oh, Hypno's team is the fun in the sun here. Oh my.
Oh my, indeed. I guess we can trade off on who is introducing the teams. So he has a Dragapult, a Walking Wake, which we don't have an image for because neither of us are competent enough to make that happen. So we're working with a little bit outdated of a doc. Mega Wizard, Slitherwing, Torkoal, which is one of his Terra captains, Venusaur, Arcanine Hisui, which is one of his Terra captains, Magnezone, Volcanion, and then some Terra captains in a Leavanny and a Maractus. This is literally full sun all day. Everything is pretty much sun related except for I think, like what, Magnezone? Everything can benefit from the sun.
Yeah, I think the Magazone hates the sun too. Like really hates the sun. But yeah, it's a it's a it's gonna be fun. It'll be really annoying to prep against, I think. But it'll be I think it might be a really fun team to play with here.
I'm very interested in some of the elements for it. I think maybe there might be too much commitment here to the weather, and some variety would have been helpful just to broaden the opponent's prep because they very clearly are going to have to prep for sun here, and so that just really centralizes them on the counter prep for that specific mode. Where if maybe there was more variety, if you didn't maybe draft Mega Wizard or Walking Wake or Volcanion or Arcanine, you might have a little more variety that forces some less specific counter prep and makes it a little harder to handle the sun mode. But it's still a very overwhelming mode to deal with, and I think a lot of coaches are going to struggle to withstand all that heat, quite literally.
Literally and figuratively. Yeah, it's one of
Yes.
those teams that feels like you may have one or two good answers for, but if he gets, if Hypno gets creative in a way to knock those out, you kind of just get run through. And I feel like Zard. I like this team. I think it looks fun to play. I think Arcanine Hisui as a Terra with a choice band seems stupid and unfair.
Hmm.
But I feel like Torkoal and Zard Y seems a little overlap when I get why, obviously. Uh,
This team is all overlap, like it's all redundancies, which is not by nature an awful thing.
no,
For a full weather team, it might be okay because you have two of everything, so you can kind of pick and play with what specific dragon you want in a matchup or what specific sunsetter or both.
right.
So there's some variety there. Like I said, and there's another team later we'll talk about with the same issue where I don't know if all the redundancies are going to play out to their advantage, where if maybe that would have been better to have had some variety as opposed to redundancy. That's usually the way to go to draft. But I've not seen a lot of teams be so weather heavy. So I'm kind of curious to see if maybe it's a little counterintuitive here and having more is better.
Yep.
But
I don't know.
and
Pult's always good.
Pult's always good. Pult's good in vanilla. In terms of Terras, I think Torkoal's fine. Arcanine definitely scary. I do have curiosity if Venusaur might have been a better solution or pick there, just because Venusaur could use the extra boost of clicking on mono, so being a Terra Grass or a Terra Poison, or maybe even being spicy and going Terra Fire with the Weather Ball to
Yep.
get that extra damage. So I'm curious if that would have improved Venusaur, but Arcanine is certainly very potent as well, so I can't say it was a bad choice. Just an interesting one.
Did we ban Walking Wake from Terra?
Nope, I don't
See, I
believe
think
so.
I probably would have gone Wake and then sorted the rest out. From using it, just having Terra Blast, being able to
hmm
adjust is
My
best.
my one criticism, and I think this is gonna bother them all season long, is that their hazard control for how much fire they have is lackluster. Wizard can't really run defog.
Nope.
Um, Torkoal pretty much is going to have to run Rapid Spin as a move every week. Volcanion could slot defog, but it may not see every matchup just because you have a lot of fire types and it doesn't really get to use its water moves effectively in this kind of team at all. So I think Stealth Rock's going to be a real issue here, just because the only Mon that resists rocks coming onto the field is Magnezone, who we already weren't too keen on with the Sun team. So
No.
there might be some trouble there. So they are probably going to have to get creative, either with how they play their matches or make a splash in free agency to patch that up at some point, because I think that will become a nuisance.
Yeah, lot of breaking power here. Just
Oh,
it
absolutely.
might be a little difficult to get Mons in. And
If they're not,
obviously, big Taco
yeah,
Moth fan here. Slitherwing is one of my favorite new Mons to use, so glad to see that get picked up.
absolutely. Big fan of Slitherwing. Overall, it's a fun team. I don't know if it's a good or a bad team, with whether it's really hard to judge. But and it's usually coach dependent, so we'll see what they do. I think stealth rocks are probably going to be a concern for them, but maybe they have some creative ways around that.
Yeah, they might. I think it's a pretty decent team. It'll be fun to watch them play here. I'm excited. A lot of these teams I'm pretty excited to watch play. I think everyone did a pretty good job drafting. And Sun. I am terrible with Sun, as we've seen in my my Cucumber Cup run. But I mean, it obviously works. So let's
Oh,
hop on
absolutely.
over to the next one here, who is light green here.
Green.
All right, in green we have Chien Pao, Great Tusk, Glow King, Hudra, Saraledge, Thundurus, Diancie, Alomomola, Arboliva, and Shuckle.
I will say right off the bat, these were some very strong picks for the Terras. Ceruledge and Diancie love having that versatility. Diancie's actually quite scary if he goes to like Terra fighting and starts doing body presses. Ceruledge just has 1,000 ways it can set up when it has the flexibility to get off of its typing. So really great selections there. I think you couldn't have picked better ones for the team you drafted. So very keen on those. I think that was a good call.
Yeah, I do like him. I think Terra Diancie is a great defensive Terra pick. The worst thing is the four times weak to the rock type sucks. But
Yes.
you could go Farah or Fairy, you could go fighting. Grass is not bad. I mean, there's a lot of good options with it. So
Oh,
and
absolutely.
yeah, and obviously Sarah Ledge I think kind of with Terra can function kind of like a discount annihilate at times where you run the bulk up taunt ghost move and then you run fire instead of fighting, or you go raw fighting and try to just smoke things with a close combat. So it's a good choice.
Absolutely. This team has some really great bulk overall. Speaking of the Dancy, which I think is going to make it really interesting. Tusk is bulky. Physically, Glow King has got that Spadef bulk. Hudra's got either bulk, usually Spadef, but it could go either bulk depending on how it wants to invest. Diancie, either bulk, and then you got Alomomola, which has that great physical bulk. Arboliva's got really good Spadef, and then Shuckle is just bulky. It's just a bulky boy.
Yeah, it's gonna be a tough one
Um,
to wear down. The regenerator duo and then wish pass. Hudra's already hard to kill, but Alomomola wish passing to it's gonna be just so annoying to take down.
this team definitely feels a little bit like stall. Not so overwhelming
No.
to like call it that, but there's a lot of bulk to slow things down here. But there's not a lot of immediate firepower. Chimpao is your big hitter, obviously, and then Thunderous is doing it on the special side mostly. But this is Thunderous incarnate. I think
Yeah,
that's
this is
right.
Thundy. Yeah, this is
Thundy
Thundy
Eye.
Eye. Yeah.
So it's a little less firepower than Thundy T, but still a pretty good mon overall. So this team is going to withstand hits really well to help try to create situations for those mons to get on the field or something like a setup Strul Edge to pop off. But there's definitely, if the opponents have the mons to slow you down, like if you're going against like an Arcanine, Champow's gonna have a really hard time breaking through, and Arcanine can just kind of stand in front of it with a Rocky Helmet and intimidate and get its health back with Morning Sun. Becomes difficult to push through. Thunderous could run into a couple things that are just hard to push through. So if you can't push through those, you're going to rely on your slower, fatter mons to help break through, which certainly they can. They're all pretty solid mons, but it can turn into some long matches where who knows how fun those are.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big pivot guy here, and it
Yeah.
does feel a little like you're going to be hard swapping quite a bit, which is, if you're make the right plays and right calls, it's really not an issue. I'm just
Yeah.
I rely on the
I mean,
crutch pretty hard of U-turn and volt switch personally, but I mean, if you can make the right plays and get the bulk in on the right call here, you're gonna be this is gonna be a really tough team to break down.
and for what it's worth, the bulk does pivot. You got Chili Reception on the Glow King. You've
Sure.
got Baton Pass on the Alomomola and the Diancie. So, like, there's ways for the bulk to come in on a hard switch, especially if you have a region core like Mola and Glow King, to come in on a hard switch, take the hit, and then pivot out with those pivot moves. Obviously, they're prone to taunt, and this team in general is prone to taunt just because a lot of these mons want setup
Yep.
or just slow. Which is the other thing I wanted to point out. Speed tiers are a little concerning. You go from 111 to 87. You usually like to be a little populated in that like 110 to 95, 90 range. So to be entirely barren there leaves you really prone to running into a lot of bulk just because opponents don't need to throw in that much speed. So it might be a little harder to break things that otherwise wouldn't have been able to invest much in HP. They now can just because of how the speed tiers are, which isn't a huge deal for Great Tusk per se, because Great Tusk can take hits, but Chien-Pao really wants to KO whatever it's hitting, and doesn't want to be taking counter hits all that much because it's bad typing in terms of defense and weak bulk. So Chien-Pao doesn't want to be caught off guard by a surprise bulk mon and then get one hit KO'd back by like some random fighting or steal or I don't know fairy move.
Yeah, it's Jimpao wants to do at least 50% on everything that comes in,
It
and not
pretty
and not
much.
and not get touched. You don't want
um,
and that kind of brings up to the next point. You only have the 2 removal, and I don't think Thunderous really wants to run Defog a ton, so it feels like it's a
no.
lot of pressure on Tusk to run Rapid Spin. But that's not the worst thing. Tusk is probably the best is not probably is the best spinner in the format, obviously, and
Oh, agreed.
offensive spin, it loves it. So it's not the end of the world. It just may be one of those things where there might be opportunities where you have a hard time getting a spin off, and Chien Pao is going to have to run boots instead of band or
And that's kind of the issue too. Is really their best 3 offensive pieces outside of Tusk are Chien-Pao, Ceruledge, Edge, Thunderous. None of them like rocks, and so if your hazard removal is weak, it makes them all very prone to being forced into boots more often than they would like. So it just takes away some of your versatility with those mons just because they get item trapped.
right. But I think this is still a pretty a pretty good team in terms of bulk and it's just going to be
Oh
hard
yeah.
to it's going to be hard to kill, especially if you're a type of player who can really ex- play well with the bulk and get a slight stall or
Hmm.
really chip teams down to get Chien-Pao or Sarah or Thundy to just come in and clean. You're gonna win quite a few games. It's just
Yeah.
I think it might be tougher at times, but I don't think it's a bad team.
No, I think it has its play style, and if Green plays it well, he's probably gonna have a very successful season.
Oh, I do too. Well, let's I think we covered that one. Let's move on to the next
Yeah.
one.
All right, we've got Cut It Out. He has a Palafin, a Mega Scizor, Zeraora, Tinglu, Hatterene, a Terra Moltres, a Decidueye, a Terra Nihilego, a Crabominable, which is a fan favorite of Helix's, so he's definitely going to have some positive comments on this team. And then finishing it off with a Terra Porygon. I will say we were talking about the lack of pivot on the last team. This team is certainly got lots of pivots, so mobility is not a problem. Palafin pivots with flip turn. We got the U-turn on Scizor, Volt Switch on Zera, teleport on Hat, U-turn on Molt, U-turn on Decid, and then teleport on the Porygon. So mobility is the name of the game here, and I am definitely a fan of that.
Yeah, I like this team. I mean, I wish you had found a spinner maybe, because you've got such Ting Lu's just so great at hazards, and Hatterene, I know with Magic Bounce, the chance to knock them back, and you've got Spikes with or T Spikes with Nihilego. I feel like Spin would have been the is really my only criticism
Oh,
of the.
absolutely. I can see what you're saying there. I mean, like you said, with Hat does exist to help keep hazards off from your side in the first place, but it would be good to be able to hazard stack and not have to worry about playing
Yeah,
Hat perfectly.
but I think
Just
it's a
stack
good
your
team.
hazards, send a spinner in. Oh yeah, I'm a fan of this team. I think the speed tiers. I remember looking at those at one point were pretty strong as well.
Yeah, you
Uh,
got Zera. Zera's gonna force so many, as always, forces so many scarfs, and it's Ting Lu doesn't die. I mean, this is a good team. I love Crabominable. I don't know how often you're gonna bring it. It's such a fun mon to click a button with. It dies, but I mean, if you can get to a couple games and get a couple kills, I'll be pretty happy to watch that.
Carbonadal with its 2 resists and like 8 weaknesses or whatever it is. I think it only resists bug and dark or something like that. It's got nothing.
Yeah, in ice. Come on,
Oh, big deal, big deal.
ice is good, but yeah, except its special bulk is 67, so it's not
Yeah,
great.
it's what was I going to say? I do like the Terras here. We were talking a little, offline on this in advance. I think Moltres is a great Terramon, just because Moltres has a lot it can do, but it's so often restricted by boots because of the, quad weakness to rock and its need to be a defogger on most teams that it just gets restricted to that item. But when you're able to make it like Terra Fairy or Terra Ground or something else that doesn't care about rocks as much, then you have so many more items in your arsenal to play with. Moltres can all of a sudden be a spec set and not care about rocks, or it can just be leftovers and be even stallier, or it can do something else. You can run a scarf set because 90 speed tier is actually pretty nice for a scarf set, but Moltres never wants to run a scarf usually just because of
No.
how it's dealing with rocks. So this opens up the game, and then of course we were talking in uh, the Discord at one point about how burn up, if you decide to Terra Fire, burn up does not reset your typing, so you can spam burn up all day long as a Terra Fire. So Moltres is pretty potent. And then Nihilego, I think, is also a fun one. Rock's not the best defensive typing. Nihilego actually has pretty good HP and SPDEF, so it can turn into like a Blissey Light with its stat spread, but also have the firepower to do something.
Yeah,
So
or
I'm really
just
curious to see how.
snowball. It's
Yes.
a great snowball mon. But yeah, I mean, I hate Moltres. I just got burned by a cheater like 4 times in one game. But it's I mean yeah, it's a great mon, and eliminating its biggest issue is a great choice. Palafin's obviously a top tier meta threat. Mega Sizer is arguably the best mega to build a team around, and then getting the speed with Zera. I mean, it's a little heavy physically, offensively, but I mean, it's not
I
like
mean,
it's not
Zera and
light.
Palatine both have good special attack that they don't have to use all the time, but they can, and it kind of gets scary when they show up. I've seen
Right.
Palatine run Boom Burst with Throat Spray, and all of a sudden that thing's popping. It's got like a 107 special attack. Zera Aura is like a
Swap that.
102 or a 103.
There we go.
There we go. So
Yeah, the
there's some
106 boom
potential.
burst is it's a lot, and grass knot
Yeah.
is obviously great. Yeah, and I mean, it's definitely bad. The mix sets to break the walls is great. Yeah, this is a good team. I mean, I think
Oh
this
yeah.
is.
This team has every reason to be successful this season.
Yep.
There's not much to criticize here. Ting Lu's going to be your great bulk, Moltres going to be a great bulk, and you got some really fun offensive options with a lot of mixed utility or just options.
I
So
mean,
I
Decidueye is like a mini mix mon too. I mean, you could get a
oh
lot.
yeah, Decidueye is a great utility mon. Like you don't. I use it mostly defensively. Scarf sets are pretty solid here because 70 speed tier with a scarf gets you past like 115 speed tier, so you can get past most things with Decidueye with a scarf. And then Zero Aura with that speed tier is always going to come in handy. Whenever you run into a Dragapult, you beat it by 1 speed point.
Yes, you do. Just don't throw it away for no reason. Um, yeah, I think we've covered this team. This is
Yeah.
a good one. I mean, for me, this is probably I'm just looking over. This is one of my favorite ones we've seen. It's definitely better than the
Oh,
team
I
I
agree.
drafted. But let's move on to
Half
the
these teams are
next.
better than the teams we drafted. I
Uh,
I think Initiate knocked it out of the park by and large here.
oh, they've done great. All right, we got Zachary here. He's got Zamazenta Crowned, Hydreigon as his Terra, Clefable, Volcarona, Superior as a Terra, Swampert, Mega Bee, Rotom Fan, Carkol, and Meloetta. Again, just on like a eye test, this is a pretty solid team too.
I think the Terra selections are great, not at all because I have the exact same two as my Terra captains
Yeah, I
this
was gonna say
season.
and B. This is like
And
is
B,
this your team?
it's there was some conversations between me and Zachary during draft, so there is unsurprisingly some through lines between our teams here. Hydreigon is a great Terra captain in the meta, I think.
Yeah.
Just having that, Levitate's a great ability because then you get to go like something like Terra Poison or Terra Steel, and you pick up a really great immunity. Um,
Oh yeah, and
or
the fairy issue, it becomes null instantly.
Oh yeah, and Hydreigon's got some pretty good move variety, but it always is a little lacking. So having the ability to Terra and then pick up that Terra Blast to just get that little bit extra coverage is, I think, really helpful to helping it break through some teams where it might need an electric move and now it has an electric move, or it might need a flying move that is special and now it has a flying move that's special. So it just gives it a little bit more, which is what Hydreigon's always been. It's been always been that kind of like versatile mon, but it was always just missing a couple of moves on the special or physical side. And now it kind of has them with Terra, so very strong pickup there.
Yeah, I think they're both very good choices. Superior is another one that I think is very easy to misprep for at times. People really
Hmm.
see the contrary and think Leaf Storm's going to sweep my team, and then you end up subseed glare and you've neutered half their team. So and B, I think one of my favorite things about this team is the B with all of the support to keep rocks off the field to make it a
Absolutely.
much better. Just that the pivot's so annoying taking adaptability U-turn if you don't have a Celesteela, a Corv, a Skarm.
Yeah, this team definitely takes advantage of the mobility. Hydreigon pivots, Clefable pivots, Volk pivots, Swampert pivots, Rotom pivots, Meloetta can pivot with U-turn. So there's a lot of ways to get the bee safely onto the field, and then you got some nothing. There isn't a great like Corviknight on the team with like just an easy mon to slot in with that likes to run Defog, but there's a lot of Defog options on the team. You got Volcarona with the Defog, you got Serp that can run Defog, and actually usually has the ability to run Defog if it wants to slot it in there. Rotom Fan obviously is a great defogger, but it doesn't come that much. Same with Carkol, great spinner, but it's not going to come that much. So there's enough there to work with. It might be a little inconvenient sometimes to slot that hazard control piece in there, but there's options. There's always options
Yeah,
to work
you can
with.
get creative here with what you've got. I like. I mean, I am not good with Hydreigon as I've
I,
been
I'm
clear
not
a couple
either.
of seasons, but I feel like the best I've used it is almost defensively at times, and I think with his ability, all the other, with Volcarona, Superior, Sam, and Beedrill, I think there are options to make it a more utility piece at times here and fit Defog pretty freely on a Roost
Hmm.
Toxic Defog U-turn. That is cancer, but it is a really it's again, this is another good team. I love Swampert flip turn. It's so bulky for no reason. It feels like at times, and taking grass knots with a AV and not dying. So this is a good team. Again, I like it. I know you like
Oh,
it.
absolutely.
It's similar to your team. So
Oh yeah. Me and Zach were talking back and forth on it a bit. So I think what he came up with in the end looks really nice. And I think he's got some fun pieces to work with. Even Meloetta is something you shouldn't discount. It has got that really strong special attack stat, 91 speed or something like that. Really good scarf tier. Has that really quirky potential to certainly turn into a physical mon with its form change. I don't think it will. I don't think he has much reason to with Zamazenta just doing it cleaner
no,
and more
but
efficiently.
it does turn into kind of a nasty Mon with the 128 speed tier, same as Zamazenta, but 128 attack is that's a
Nice.
yeah, it's not bad.
Overall, I think it's a strong draft, though, so I'm really excited to see what he does with it. A lot of these pieces can be versatile. Not a lot of things are, other than maybe Beedrill, nothing else is particularly like obvious with what sets they're going to run. They have a lot of options to play with every week. There's no vanilla sets, so it should keep things interesting where opponents have a hard time prepping for what's going to show up because they could know all six mons, but they could get five of those six sets wrong in terms of
Oh
what
yeah,
they're doing.
yep. I think it's good here. Again, this is a good one. I think we've covered
Yeah.
it. Let's who is next? Looks like it is Ultra Pro Star here.
And he's got the Urshifu single, the Feeny, the Iron Treads, the Mega Exart, sorry, the Rotamo, the Hisuian Zorark, the Hisuian Bravery, the Glamora, Avalugg, Spidops, and Tandemouse. I will say I think Exart is a pretty solid pairing with Feeny. Feeny obviously with its ability puts out Misty Terrain, which weakens dragon moves. So you don't want to pair it up with a dragon that likes to use its dragon moves all that much. And I don't think Wiser or Exart likes to necessarily.
No.
He's pretty content to run, Flare Blitz and Earthquake as the coverage with like Dragon Dance and Roost as the other two moves. So Exart's not being too bothered by the terrain. There are certain situations where you'd probably want to have that dragon move, but he doesn't need it in the same way others might.
No, it's the first four there are. I mean,
Oh yeah,
very tough.
good picks.
Treads is kind of acts like a it's a discount Great Tusk, but I've drafted it the most I've drafted any mon this season just because the speed tier, the decent attack, the spin, the rocks knock. I mean, it is a great utility piece that you can run physically, defensively, AV, especially physically attack.
Love the AV sets.
Yep, you could run booster if you want. If you get a spin off and kind of crack down on a couple teams. It's a great fairy killer. It's it's a good mon. I like it.
Yeah,
What
good
is there to say
utility.
about Shifu at this point that hasn't been said 100 times? It's this is another team that's got a lot of really good pieces here. I love the hazard stack potential he has, and he's got great spinners that he doesn't have to defog away.
Oh, absolutely. I will say one of I do have a concern with the team, and that's its overall speed tiers. The
Yep.
top speed is treads. 106 is once upon a time 106 was fine. In today's meta, 106 just isn't going to cut it. You're going to get outsped by two or three mons on the opposing team in every matchup. And so you get forced into running scarfs a lot in order to counteract some of the uncomfortable speed tiers. So things like Rotamo or Glamora get forced into running those scarves more often than they would like. Even Treads can get forced into scarf matchups or Urshifu.
Yeah.
So it can make it a little unpleasant when you get overly reliant on scarves in order to combat speedy teams. And pretty much every team we looked at's got like a 130 or higher piece on their team. So you're gonna run into quite a few of those, I think.
Yep. And the other thing that is kind of glaring is if you look at the average stats, there's only one physically, or not physically, specially defensive kind of bulk, and that's Fenny, which I mean you're gonna have to you can make up with that with AVs or
Hmm.
assault vest, but it does limit what you can do. So I think
Yeah, it
that's
definitely
it's a little tough.
agreed. Yes, it puts a restriction on Feeney's potency or versatility when you feel like it's got to be your Spadef wall in a lot of matchups. I mean, Rotamo can do it too, but it doesn't love to. You don't usually end up bringing Rotamo to more than half your games just because of how Rotamo tends to be.
Wow,
So,
yeah. Especially if you're a special wall, you don't
mhm.
really want to be weak to ice and fire frequently, two of the most common special
Yes,
special attacking
yes.
types. And unfortunately, and I like Rotomo. I think it's for the points. It's a great pick, but yeah, it's a little tough that way. I do
Uh,
think Terra Captains are interesting. I haven't seen Treads used before, and I haven't seen Zora or Kasui used, so I don't know how
yeah,
that'll pan out. I probably would have gone Braviary just for the tinted lens and sheer force
I
ability, but I don't know.
I think in the same boat more or less. I think Hisuian Bravery just likes being able to get off that flying type so it can be more potent with the sheer force potential. Because when you can run Life Orb sheer force and you don't have to care about rocks because maybe all of a sudden you're a ground type or you're a fighting type or something like that, then you're really vibing because then you don't have to feel restricted or like your power has been weakened. And then if you go maybe you go like Terra Psychic, and then now your psychics are just like otherworldly power with sheer force, with the extra boost from Psychic, with the Life Orb. So I feel like you would have gotten more out of Sui and Braviary, but I've not seen them used much, so I can't say for certain either way.
Right. Yeah, and obviously Shifu was banned, otherwise that would have been the premier
Oh
pick.
yeah,
But no one wants Terra Dark, uh, Wicked Blow in a league. So yeah, I mean there there are a couple things I think maybe after a week or two you might want to reconsider, but there's also a lot I think to like about this team, and if you can figure out a way to force a bunch of swaps onto your hazards, I think you're gonna make a real tough matchup for a lot of people.
and this team is really well set up to spam hazards. I will say that you got Glamora with its hazards, you got Spidops, you got treads, and then the big thing here, what matters most is I think you got four spinners. You got treads, you got Glamora, you got Avalug, um, three spinners.
Three,
Sorry,
yeah.
three spinners. Still, that's a lot of spinners. That gives you the ability to hazard stack and then keep hazards off your side. And so with something like Glamora, with those, with that toxic debris ability, with spikes and stealth rocks, the ability to get all the hazards on the field, that really enables Glamora to be pretty potent. So definitely a fan of all that hazard play. I'm curious to see how he'll use it.
Yeah,
Just
I
maybe
love
need to pick
Glamora.
up some speed, or
Yeah,
you have to bring the smite ups more often than you want. One of the two probably will happen.
yeah, it's not the best. Yeah, the one thing I will say before we move on to Glamora, you can catch a lot of steam if that's the mon people are dedicated thinking you're going to remove hazards from your side, and they bring in the steel type, you catch them with a corrosion toxic, and
Oh yeah.
it's quite.
All of a sudden you're all of a sudden you're the subtoxic set.
Yep.
You catch
Oh
them by
yeah.
surprise.
Yep. Spiky shield. Yeah, it's quite good. It's
Uh,
Glamora's a
uh,
really nasty mon to if you it's one of those, it feels like it's like Salazzle in the sense that if you make one misplay on it, you feel like you're gonna have to sack a mon or two to get the momentum back.
yep.
Yeah, I like it. I don't want to see Luigi using it, I'll tell you that. But we'll move on to the next team here. Let's see who it is. It is Unhomy, Unhomy,
Anomi.
Anomi.
Anomi. Anomi.
Yeah, this team: Tafu Koko, Mega Medi, Iron Bundle, Pex, Heatran, Salamence Terra, Sylveon, Stunfisk Terra, Wobbuffet Terra, and Kricketune Terra.
It's a lot of low tier Terra.
Yep, Mince is probably
Mint is a great
is a
pick.
great
Mint is a
Terra.
great Terra.
And
Guys lost to Immense today in a finals because it had Terra Steel, and I just wasn't ready for that. And I lost another match to a Salamence because I was expecting offensive, and it went Rocky Helmet with a defensive Terra, and so
Intimidate
Salam.
Helmet is good.
Yep, yep. So Salamence is a really frustrating Terra to deal with. I am learning. So I'm seeing that is a very potent one, which is good for Salamence because he's always struggled to kind of pop off in draft. Just he's too expensive to draft too often, but he's not good enough for what you spend. But now I think he is.
Yeah, and I think Terra, he's one of those mons that with Terra it really opens up a special set too, with that
Hmm.
110. I mean, everything about that mon says it should be so much better than it is at times, but eliminating the four times the rocks and the four times ice is really nice. And this, can we talk about how this team went Tapu Koko, Mega Medi, Bundle? Yikes.
Yeah, that's wild. I mean, Mega Medi Coco is, I think, a classic core. Like, I love that combination. But it's wild that like you didn't pick up Bundle, but you still got to get Bundle.
Yeah, I'll tell you, I won it in a league I was playing. I took Bundle first round, and I was like praying Coco somehow made it back, because I think free Quark Drive. That's kind of the one thing Bundle struggles with is it basically has no ability. But with Coco, I mean, you can run boots, specs, scarf. I mean, you can do what expert belt. I mean, if you want to go crazy in life orb, Coco makes it so much better. This is
Oh, absolutely.
this is uh this is tough. I will say the ground weakness on this
Hmm.
team is a little scary, but
Yeah. I think the biggest concern with the ground weakness, especially, is you got your two bulk boys and Heat Train and Toxapex, and they hate ground. So you get a little reliant on your Salamence to not be because there's no resist. Nothing resists ground. With I'm not counting Kricketune here because that's not a real count. Nothing resists ground except for Salamence, but Salamence doesn't want to be restricted into its Dragon Flying with its Terra. It wants to get off of that into something else.
yep.
So you run into this conundrum here: is do I Terra my Salamence or do I just let myself be hit by ground moves?
Yeah,
Um,
that's kind of the biggest kind of concern for me on this team is one of the most. I mean, everything gets earthquake. It feels like so,
yes,
especially in that deck. So that's tough. Everything else, I think it's got a ghost weakness is a little tough because ghost is also incredibly spammable, and rock, but at rock is almost always weak in draft. It's so hard to get that completely covered. So I don't really
yeah.
worry too much.
I feel like this. We were talking about this mon before too, because we're like, oh, we don't have an image for this mon. But if there was a team that mon belonged on, it would probably be this team. Iron Leaves would definitely be a valuable fit here for both the resist and the extra bonus of the electric terrain.
Yep.
So if you're finding Earthquake to be a problem, there is a mon sitting on the bench right now, untaken, which would definitely slot in well here. I mean, you might have to play around with your Mega Metacham, which, understandably, Mega Metacham's a really good mon. You may not want to move on from it.
You might be
But
able to make them work, but you have to give up
you
something.
Yeah, so there's an answer sitting on there, sitting undrafted that you could definitely look into, or maybe some low tier options. I don't see a good ground type Stunfisk. There's probably something with like a what's his name, Torterra. Torterra might be something to look at too, where you can
Yeah,
pick up a ground
Torterra would be
resist.
a really that thing eats earthquakes and earth powers. That's not a bad idea.
Yeah.
This team is very scary offensively.
Yes, yes. If you're able to put it on the back foot with Earthquake Spam, it's obviously you have an advantage, but it's going to be tough to get that positioning when you got those first three mons just spamming at you, and then Salamence potentially a Dragon Dance away from just running through you.
Yep, Heatran is very. I mean, obviously we're having issues with the earthquake here, but still, if you Heatran, Scarf Eruption, Specs Eruption, getting it pivoted
Oh
in the right
yeah.
place, you think it's going to be a defensive mon, and it comes through and hits you with a ton of damage. It's a great draft mon. Very
I've
exciting.
won my first. Oh yeah.
Ser-
Uh,
trying to think. I think we covered this team. I think it's scary. I mean, I think
yes.
the could easily break a bunch of walls. This will be a very tough one to prep for.
I think. Oh, there's one thing last thing I wanted to mention. Its hazard control is very minimal. Coco doesn't want to run default because it takes away its own terrain, and then Salamence doesn't usually want to do that unless it's being forced into a bulk roll, which it might be more often than you'd like. And then with spike stacking gets to be a problem here when everything's subject to spike stacking, with the exception of Salamence. So there might be a need to pick up something with a little bit of hazard control. But
Yeah, I
we'll see
think
how it plays.
maybe a little better ground type. Maybe I don't know if Donphan's available, but Donphan would
Oh,
probably give you a really reliable spinner, and with the terrain up, you are running the risk of getting just freeing up their electric type for a free massive boost volt switch. So maybe getting something like a Don Fan or I don't know any other ground or not Sand Slash, but if Don Fan's available, it might be worth trying to figure out. There's definitely some pieces here. You've got a great start to this team, and I think give it a
yes.
couple weeks, but there's definitely some options I think you can play around with.
Yeah, I mean, I'll say this last thing and then we can move on. You don't love when the other team can run Rising Voltage pretty freely because you don't have a switch in to Rising Voltage. Uh, that might sting a little. So hopefully you don't run into those scary electric types early on while you're kind of feeling out the team. But like I said, I think there's a lot to like here. Just a couple of spots where you might be exploited a little more often than you would like, and you might need to look for some solutions at some point in the season.
Yeah, I think so. But again, that first three, that doesn't look like fun. So
No.
we'll move on to our next team, who is Bloop.
Bloop, bloop, bloop. Oh, Bloop. I'm sorry. I'm introducing here. Bloop's got the Landorus Incarnate, the Goldango, the Rotom the King Gambit, Terra Garganical, which is a great Terra, Cinderace, Hisui and Lilligant, Aromatisse, Mega Abomasnow, which is an interesting pickup, and then an Altaria to finish it off.
I'm pretty sure Gambit's Terra. I think I just botched that on the doc, but
I'm I'm checking now. Uh,
I feel like it is. I think Bloop said that in when he drafted it. I can
yes,
take Gambit and
yes,
Garganacl. Yeah, yeah, that makes Gambit so much scarier. I think Garganacl has. I like a lot of this team. I think Garganacl has lost a lot of what made it scary at first when people realized you can covert cloak. The one bright side on that is
yes,
though is that you do almost force a covert cloak every single game. So you're forcing one item, which is always great.
yes. It kind of forces some of their. I think the one I saw a lot doing it was like Slow King, like Galarian Slow King. A lot I would see running those, or sometimes a weird water type. Like I had to run a Covert Cloak Palafin once because that was the only way I wasn't gonna get bowled over by a Garganical. So it's gonna force some weird counter prep on your team, and that always is in your favor when you can force weird things because then you can kind of control how they're playing. Um,
This team has got a lot of blanks on the right side, but it does hit. You know, Garganacle's a really safe, reliable rocker. Lando can frequently fit rocks. I think not having spikes in this current meta is a little tough, but
mhm.
Cinderace might be able to just, you know,
Yeah, that is a
swap
big
that.
thing too. Because you're not having an easy time putting. I mean, Garganical is your best rocker. King
Yeah.
Gambit can, but doesn't usually want to.
Eh,
Landorus almost never should click stealth rocks. Like
it's pretty
I can
rare,
barely.
yeah.
There's almost no situation where Landorus isn't better off just doing attacks.
No, you're nine, yeah,
Um,
99 times out of 100. It's true. There are, I think Altaria for the points was a good late round pickup. Lilligant Hisui is, very scary with the victory dance sets.
Absolutely.
And I think this is, I don't know how often Mega Obama Snow is going to come, but getting, it's not light clay veil, but still getting veil and getting the bulk it now gets from Snow Warning is not
Oh,
bad. I do,
that's. I mean, it's a terrible typing, but that's a fair point.
yeah, but it does when you add the bulk. So Lando doesn't want to take an ice shard. It's a much better swap in for it. You have the fire resist, two great fire resist in Garganacl and Rotom Wash. It's not. I think it's a better mon. It's obviously definitely a better mon this generation with the buff. I don't know how often it comes, considering the first seven are pretty great.
Yeah,
But there's
but
definitely
I
going to be
take your
some
point.
matches it could be good.
Yeah. I mean, 90 HP stat with a 105 defense that gets a 50% boost with the snow you're setting on your own just on entry, like that makes it into a pretty bulky boy. And then it's got recovery moves with Giga Drain, so like it can get health back a little bit. It's got
Well,
priority.
you
It
don't have to
never
run a
needs to invest in speed.
exactly. You can run negative speed, so you can get Woodhammer, Blizzards. You can do. It's not. It's the typing is obviously atrocious,
Yeah.
but the buff does make it better. And I think even just getting, I think Lando, Goldango, Gambit, Cinderace, even Lilligan a little bit,
Mhm.
probably love the veil that you can get up for it. So I think
Oh,
this,
absolutely.
yeah, and obviously King Gambit's, the current meta, I think, an OU issue their suspect testing for Terra.
Yes.
So this was obviously a great choice.
Yeah, I think King Gambit's I think both Terras here are great picks. And then King Gambit doesn't need the Terra, and Garganical obviously is situational. There's some matchups where it doesn't need to Terra, and so you really have a lot of you can prep both of them to be a Terramon and just react to the matchup and adjust accordingly. Then neither of them necessarily is compelled to Terra to do whatever they want to do effectively. So I'm keen on this team. I like it.
Yeah,
It's a
I do too.
little it's a little slower than I like. 119 is an okay top speed. It's not great. Not spectacular in this meta, but Cinderace is pretty solid, so I think he'll be okay.
Yeah, it's not bad. And, he's got a lot. He's got two Mons that love speed boosting with Lilligant and Lando. So,
Hmm.
they're only one turn away of being much faster and being real lethal there. So yeah, this is a really good team. I don't. There's not a lot to
Yeah.
really say. I do think the speed's a little tough, but it's not the end of the world.
No, not at all.
All right, and Fuego here is the next one. It is Tornadus T, Mega Venusaur, Samurai Hisui, Screamtail, Excadrill, Regidrago, Terra, Regieleki, Orthworm, Cradily Terra, Tauros Paldea, the Fire Terra, and our second Lord and Savior, Gary, our Pincurchin, the other
Oh,
Terra.
Gary. This is a funky team. This is a
It's
very funky one.
it's odd. I don't think it's bad, but it's just everything kind of. It looked like it was kind of pieced together, but I think there's some decent things that can really because I'll say I love Orthworm. I think it's a I think it's a great budget steal.
Yes, I concur. And we are a league with Shedtail, so it
Right.
can get some utility out of that. Um, this team actually kind of doesn't love ground spam in general, so Orthworm does serve a role here.
Yep.
I'm not keen on double steals normally because extra is usually a fine enough steal for a team, but I can see where Orthworm offers a different utility over Excadrill.
It's just a lot more.
Um,
It's a traditionally more bulky mon. I think
yeah.
I think his thought was, and I get it. I need to get something that can absorb a little bit more. So I get it. I think Torn Mega Vino is a kind of a nice little combo to go into. Samurai Hisui is obviously kind of the new toy on the block and very very fun to play with.
Hmm.
Free spikes and even if it's just a little chip is great. Screamtail is awful to play against. It's
It's a
so
hard mon to
annoying.
prep against. I mean, because you just know it's not doing you damage. Like, you're not, until it does,
Well, yeah, until
ironically,
it's
but
until it's weakness policy or it's bulk up or calm mind in your face and wishing. It's so frustrating. It's
because it's
I
just
call it
probably going to
snooky.
Thunderwave, or it's going to encore you as you try to subset up, or it's going to put up
Yep.
rocks, or it has a trick set too. I had Screamtail last season, and I was doing all these things, including the setup set, which I would have won with, but I got crit, so that was frustrating for Screamtail. But I mean, it just does a lot, and it makes it very difficult to counter prep. And 111 is a great speed tier because there's so many things that sit in like the 100 to 110 range, so it can just get just a little bit ahead of everything speed wise, and then bother it all with all its utility moves. And it has pivot, it has baton pass. It doesn't use it very much. It's hard to slot it in, but it's got momentum to work with.
Right. Yeah, I mean it's screens, wish, wave, rocks. I mean it's a great utility.
Dazzling Green for it.
Play
This thing is
rough.
like, if it got seismic toss, it'd be game over. Screamtail would just be like unstoppable because like
Yeah,
the one thing stopping it right now is it just doesn't have like a way to do reliably like 25% or more with an attack because it
yeah, it's not super effective or anything. I'll tell
I
you,
think because it's yeah.
I just won a game. Survived at it took like 70% from a Sneasler Dire Claw and killed a pack with Psyshock. I mean
Oh wow.
it's a beefy and that was no defense. It was not full HP. It's a beefy mon for being such a small little meatball. It's so fat.
It's got a very similar spread to Umbreon, but with
Yeah.
better utility because
Yep.
Umbreon just lacks coverage moves and things to pressure with other than like Thunder Wave, and it's slow, but this one's got the speed to work with, as well as the bulk. So Screamtail's a real pain,
Oh my
and
god, thank God I
I
didn't
think
get
this team
toxic.
yet, yeah, good thing it doesn't have toxic. Thunder Wave's annoying enough. This team has a lot of annoying mons to deal with. Mega Venusaur is really difficult to push through.
Yep.
We just talked about Screamtail for a couple minutes, how annoying that is. Orthworm's tough to push through. Torn, if used well, is tough to deal with. So there's a lot of frustrating mons to push through. I don't know if I love the Terra choices he made. Regidrago's fine, that's cool. Regidrago has Terra Blast, I believe, so it's got some utility to work with there. It's got Earthquake added to its arsenal this gym to make Dragon Dance a little more effective. All the low tier Terra picks, though, I don't know if those were the most ideal. If Earthworm might have been a better pickup for that,
Yeah, I think
or
Orthworm was for me probably did we ban Torn from Terra?
I can't remember. I'm checking now.
Because I think Torn Terra is just incredible, personally. Or Samurott Hisui just getting the extra damage would have been great. I think Reggie Drago, you see the setup in the Dragon Ball and the ability to
Yeah,
really spiral damage quickly. But yeah, and then he does have two really good spinners. If Regieleki's not going to be Terra, using it as a
yeah.
utility screens pivot with rapid spin is pretty useful.
Oh
Um,
yeah, for sure.
and obviously, if you can eliminate the ground, which he does have, Mega Venusaur and Samurott are both pretty good at that. Somehow getting a boosted electric surge, terrain Eleki could be pretty good. And obviously,
Oh, absolutely.
I think Shed Tail into a couple of these mons that would love it, like Torn, Mega Venusaur, Screamtail, kind of the first six. Just anything that doesn't really want to click a sub on its move slot, I think really, really tough if it can get
Oh,
that
absolutely.
piece together.
I agree. I think one of my last comments on the team is that to confirm, Tornadus can be a Terra captain if he so chooses at any point in time and wants to change that up. I think my only concern with Regidrago as a Terra captain, or I guess the way the team is set up right now, is that some of his best pieces, like Regidrago, Regieleki, they need other things removed from play before they can really pop off. So, Reggie Drago wants to see those fairies out of play before it starts really popping off with its
Yep.
coverage. I mean, it can a little bit with Terra. It can be Terra Poison or whatever and skirt that, but there's not a lot of instant firepower on this team, so it can be difficult to clear things without needing a lot of turns of slowly whittling things down. Torn does decent damage, but usually likes to have a nasty plot in its arsenal to really pop off. Mega Venusaur is really tough to KO, but it doesn't necessarily KO you back quickly. I know it's got a decent special attack, but it's just not like instant damage. It can't set up any farther. His student Samurai's pretty solid. Exojo's pretty solid, but special attacker wise, you're not threatening immediately. So some tough special walls like Blissey can be really difficult to push through. But
Yep.
there's some fun pieces here. There's definitely fun pieces to make some noise with.
Yeah, I will say too, for the rain team having Cradily, having a kind of instant water absorb mon with grass is not. Yeah, it was a pretty good late round pickup for it. So that was kind of a smart. I don't know if that was intentional, but it was not a bad play there to grab. I mean, obviously some things that don't love it, but that might
Yeah,
have been a really smart pick in the end. So let's
yeah,
see what else we've got next. Ah, here we go. I think we're on the rain team.
yes.
Here we go. Eruption.
Oh lordy. We got Dracovish, we got Zapdos, we got Pelipper. Dracovish is a Terra, by the way. We got Pelipper, we got Ferrothorn, Mega Swampert, Florges, Overquill, Beartick, Armaldo, Basculegion, and Urshifu Rapid Strike. Um, I do. I try to limit where I go with for weather teams because I just don't use weather teams, so I don't know what makes a good weather team. But I am of the opinion that this might just be too much weather. um, you
Yeah, I'm kind of
know,
under the same. I'm kind of under the same thing. I think there are some mons that, Dracovish can function out of water or out of
sure.
rain. Zapdos can function out of it. Pharaoh, I think, is a trap mon. I think it's great in rain, but I think it's kind of a trap mon. It's kind of easy to set up on if you can make the right switch and prediction. Mega Swampert obviously kind of needs it. Florges is fine, but a lot of the big pieces really, really, really want that rain and don't aren't as valuable without it. So I
Yeah,
don't. I'm not a weather player clearly. So I could be. This team could sweep everybody 6-0, and I mean, I wouldn't surprise me. I'm just so bad with weather. But I mean, it's there. I mean, Dracovish is terrifying with Terra Water, obviously. Um,
absolutely.
and Zapdos can help eliminate those threats, but it's kind of Zapdos and Pharaoh to eliminate the bulky grass or the bulky water, and I mean, even
Yeah.
then, it's
I
not
mean,
that simple.
no, and exactly. And I think the big thing, what I mean by overkill is like I don't see what Beartick or Armaldo or even female Basket Legion are gonna do for this team. Like I don't see where Beartick comes and offers something that Dracovish or Mega Swampert or Urshifu Rapid Strike don't just do 12 times better. I don't see what Armaldo does in these matchups either. So it feels like you could get
Rapid
more
spin.
utility. Yeah, I mean technically, yeah. I feel like you could get better utility mons. It just feels like a overcommitment to Rain
I
when you
agree.
don't need those mons to do it. And then on Terras, I because of how reliant this team is on Terra, I just don't see any reason Pelipper shouldn't be a Terra captain because you want to make sure Pelipper is staying alive as long as possible and has just the right situational setup with its Terra so that it can always stay healthy and get roosts on and get pivoted and come back in and not care about rocks because if you can get off that flying typing into like a ground typing or into a fighting typing or into something that resists or at least is neutral to rocks, then it's a lot easier to run your what's the item? Whatever the stone is. Damp stone.
Yeah,
Damp rock.
damp
Damp rock.
rock. We were close.
Yeah.
We were gonna get
We
there
were in
eventually. Yeah, I think
so I
it's
go ahead.
good. I mean, I was gonna say yeah and Pelipper also kind of becomes the best defogger if that's the
Hmm.
case because Zapdos on this team is your fastest mon when Rain's not up and kind of has to
Oh, is it
carry a
really? Oh,
yeah.
wow.
So
I
it
did
kind
not
of has to
realize that.
carry a lot of the special attacking, you know, prowess and load, and it's great at that. But I think Zapdos really thrives when you can make it a stupid static spam
Yes.
defensive mon that then a couple weeks you bring it to catch people with weather ball, hurricane, volt switch,
Thunder.
thunder. Yeah, but I think it right now it feels to me like that's your biggest special attacker. And I know Basque Legion female is adaptability, shadow ball, and hydro pump do a ton of damage, but at
It's get hard to
78,
slot in.
yep, and at 78 speed it becomes very you running bulk where it's got no defense and
Hmm.
no special defense, a lot of HP, but I think it gets a little tricky on this team to fit the pieces together. I don't know. I think it almost looks better
Yeah.
as a spike and toxic spike stack team here.
Yep. What was I gonna say? I think this team is absolutely a-okay when you control the game flow. But if you lose control of weather or if Pelipper takes a surprising knockout early, you are in a really bad spot to rebound because of your Terras are really committed to staying on offense. Like none of those mons are going to give you much utility in terms of defensive Terra. If you don't have really any other great alternative setters other than clicking Rain Dance on something like Mega Swampert because sometimes you can get away with that with a Mega Swampert. So it just there's a lot of reliance on it. And if you're on offense and you're controlling game flow, it's like hey, no worries. You're golden. Your team's gonna be great. You're gonna dominate. But if you get hit by anything surprising, if you can't get rocks off the field because they get rocks up early and you just can't get a clean defog with Pelipper, it might be really difficult on your team to reestablish itself mid game if it's not in control.
Yep, I agree. I think
But I think it's fun. Like I respect, if nothing else, I respect the full on commitment to running a rain mode. Like this team is just 100% I am rain.
oh yeah. I want to see this versus the Sun team.
Yes, that would be the showdown for the ages. And I think both of them have the same problems of overcommitting, and only one of them can have the weather they want all game. So
Yep.
someone, it's whatever the right analogy is for it. It's after 11. I can't think straight,
I
but
can just think of the
uh,
meme where Bugs Bunny slaps down one thing, the other one slaps down the other, they just go back and forth. That's the only thing I can think of. But this
that's
is
an apt analogy.
and I'm not a good weather player, so this could end up, this is like the Sun team. It could end up very easily 6-0ing everyone, and we were just completely wrong because we just
Hmm.
aren't great weather. But maybe he'll prove us wrong. But I mean, it's there are some things to like. It's just a little again like you, a little worried. The all
Yes.
in can be tough if it doesn't go your way quickly in a game.
Generally, what I've seen in most leagues, and I'm waiting for it to be corrected this season. When you commit to an all-in strategy like that, whether it's weather, whether it's trick room, whether it's something kind of niche like that, it can be really great to get you to playoffs. But then it almost always is going to be what stops you from winning because someone will just catch you in playoffs with it because they'll prep well and they're a good opponent, and then that'll be that. So I can see this team doing really well in regular season and then kind of having an early exit in playoffs, as tends to be CLDL tradition. The weather teams don't do well come playoffs time.
Yep. All
Alrighty.
right. Who do we have next?
Also, I appreciate the irony of your name being Eruption, you having a rain team.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's quite good. I don't even remember who did this one, so I'll just go ahead. Who is this again? This is I'm Nick Finnrier. We've got Mega Glade, Lando Therian, Greninja, Skeledirge Terra, Thundi T Terra, Tinkaton, Dunsparce, Serena, Dragalge, and Rabambe. I love the Terra captains here,
I think these
really.
are great selections for Terra captains.
Yeah.
Skeledirge obviously is just a top tier Terramon because it is so hard to kill when it can be like a fairy type or a water type or a ground type. So a monster mon. And then Thundi gets to take full advantage of its ability when it can be like a Terra water or just a pure Terra flying
Yeah, the
and be
Terra
like,
Blast flying with 145 attack, special attack hurts.
whoo,
Yeah.
whoo. Yeah, that's a scary power. The
It's a
moment
kind of a scary team in general. Mega
I love the momentum here. The
Yep.
team is full of momentum and I love it.
Mega Glade, Lando, Greninja, Dirge, Thundy, and then the rest kind of I feel like you're almost bringing your top 5 and then whatever the last pieces you kind of need. So
Yeah,
it's it's Nat Dex, so Lando becomes a great utility piece here with Defog, U-turn, Helmet, Intimidate. You don't have to run Serena every game just for the rapid spin. I mean, this is a good team.
oh yeah, and then I some of its better pieces are a little slow. Like Mega Glade's a 110, Lando's a 1 or 91, Thunderous is a 101. So it's kind of nice having that pocket Rabombi towards the back there, where you're like, I really need to get webs up in this matchup, and you got them on just for that.
Yep.
Um,
It's not a bad. I mean, 95 bug fairy is not a terrible specs user if you want to catch somebody
I've seen
kind of
it.
sleeping.
I've seen that set. It's scary. And then Rabami's got a weird speed stat where it can sometimes run modest and run
Yeah,
modest specs, and then that modest specs Moonblast is popping. So,
it's yeah. Webs is out
uh,
is actually a very good webs team where
yes,
Glade loves webs, and I think I've never tried it, but I imagine Thundy at the 101 would really. You don't have to run agility. You can almost run webs and then nasty plot, and it
yep.
becomes a menace.
I've lost multiple games to a double dance Thundy, so I know the danger of that thing popping off with like a nasty plot plus an agility. So when it only needs one turn because of webs, that is just real dangerous.
Oh, the Dunsparce is. I mean, it's a little light on the bulk, but I think the defensive pieces are tougher to break than their stats kind of lead on. Dirge is
Oh,
tough to break.
absolutely.
Dun is just glare sucks to swap into.
Yes.
In fighting types,
It
you
has
most of the time don't want to get hit with the glare. It's not like it's tough. It's good. I like this team.
I think my only small concern is that it's not great on the special defense side. It doesn't have an easy time switching into a lot of special attackers, especially
No.
if they have like dragon with some kind of ground or fire coverage, because your only dragon answer is Tinkaton because it's both your steel and your fairy. And so if they have the coverage for that, then all of a sudden you don't resist anymore. And nothing is really having a fun time with like a Draco Meteor or even a
No.
Dragon Pulse. So, there's some concern there, but I'm not overly worried. Dragalge with an AV is pretty good. Rabombi can be good situationally. It does have roost access.
Yep.
Um, I've
The
seen AV
Dunsparce is pretty.
Dunsparce.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think it's a really fun team. I think there's really good picks all around. Great Terras. I think we're both in agreement. Those are some great Terra
Yep.
captains.
It's a very scary setup team with
Hmm.
Swords Dance, Swords Dance. Greninja's just spamming U-turn. Dirge, if you get a couple Torch Songs going. We've talked about Thundy, Swords Dance, Tink, Calm Mind, Boom Burst to Dunsparce. I mean,
Oh, jeez.
yep.
Yeah.
And obviously Quiver Dance. It's got some. You have to prepare for a lot of setup on this team. So this is good. This is definitely, I think, one of the overall well balanced,
This
stronger
is a
drafts.
very balanced team because
Yep.
for all the talk of the setup, like they also just can come out and just hit damage.
Yep.
Glades hitting damage.
Yep.
Uh,
165 attack, 145 special attack are two pretty high numbers that you have to
yeah,
really
account
prep
for.
for.
Yeah.
Yep. All right. I don't think there's much to say else, so we both agree this is a
No,
good one. Down to our last three here, and it's Requiem.
this is a funky team. I talked with him as he was kind of finishing up a draft and we were in Grace. It's not a bad team. It's just a really funky team. We got my insurance, I can't remember. We got the Cyclizer, the Terra Zygarde, the Mega Arrow, the Don Bozo, Spectrier, Grim, Victini, Rotom Frost, Fortress, and Grottle.
Yeah, this is Cyclizar, the lizard first. I get it. Shedtail is very strong, and I do think he picked some pretty good mons that wouldn't have really abused Shedtail
Oh, absolutely.
that don't want to run sub on their own. It does free up Zygarde to run not sub if you don't want
Hmm.
to, but Mega Arrow probably really strong with a sub up. It's something you never get a chance to really run because you really have to have all four of those move slots. Again, give Spectrier more coverage. And then I think Victini's probably the best one to really
Victini
throw.
terrifies me with Shedtail because
Yeah.
if you click Shedtail when someone's switching out on the other side, if they don't want to face the Cyclizer and they hard switch out, and you just Shedtail into your Victini, Victini probably gets to click V create twice. The first time, safely behind the sub, no worries, and the second time as the sub B's broken. So that's just like a really terrifying kind of circumstance where something like Victini just gets 2 turns to pop with a move that you don't even want to give it 1 turn to use because it's just a scary move.
Yeah. I think Victini not. It wasn't Eruption, but whoever had the Sun team, I think Victini may have been the play for you and gone Terra because it's so.
Mm.
Yes, I've used it. It does the calcs on like full defensive Slowbro choice band in the Sun is like 80% or something. It's really unfair.
Gross.
Yeah,
Gross, gross,
yeah.
gross.
I think that yeah, it's very. I mean, it's a great draft mod. Everybody it's universally
Yeah.
regarded as one of the
It's
better
a
fire
Glumon.
types. Yep.
Yeah.
And I think he got some. You know, I mean, Gen 9 gave a lot of just stupid, bulky things, and Don Bozo is just another one of those
So,
mons that feels so hard to kill frequently. And I think that with screens from Grimsnarl or parting shot out, Fortress being
the,
able to spin away. It's an interesting team. It's got a lot of good utility pieces. I feel like.
yeah, I think the conversation I was having with him in chat at one point was like this team pops. It needs some turns to pop, like whether that's through Shedtail with the Cyclizer or that's through screens with the Grimmsnarl. Like this is a team where you could if you can get that free turn on Spectrier or Mega Arrow or Zygarde, like it gets scary very quickly. And he has the pieces to do that with Grimmsnarl and Cyclizer.
Yep.
Victini has some, utility options with like Trick or whatever. Same with Rotom Frost. So like this team is potentially a couple of well-timed turns away from just snowballing into some kind of sweeper, and he's got a few of those. But it doesn't pop instantly. Like most of these pieces want that little bit of support to really get going. So like if he can't reestablish himself on offense, there could certainly be some issues where, Victini can't pop, Cyclizer can't shed tail because it can't get its health up. Mega Arrow can't get that home clause in that it likes to get in, or Zygarde can't get that Dragon Dance in that it likes to get in. So there are some concerns that it might get smacked a little bit by that, but I think it's just a very scary team with a lot of setup potential. That's going to be very difficult for opponents to
Yep.
counter.
The only problem is the first thing I see when I see this team is I'm slapping down a toxic spike. Like it's
Yes.
the first thing I'm throwing down against this team instantly.
Yeah, it does encourage Cyclizer to be more boots prevalent on this team
Yep.
just because the hazard control it's there, but like it's not great. Like Mega Arrow is never going to run defog, and then
No,
so you're
never.
basically relying on Rotom Frost or Fortress as your alternates for Cyclizer. So putting Stealth Rocks up turn one is pretty great. Putting T Spikes up turn one is pretty great. It just limits the mobility here because Dondozo is never going to run not helmet, never going to run boots. Zygarde's never going to run boots. So if you get T Spikes down turn one, then Cyclizer can't just pivot into those mons because then they get toxic behind their sub and they're not so dangerous anymore.
Yeah, it's just
So I
stall. It's just you get a decent
yeah,
stall plan in on them, or yeah. But it's not. That being said, Fortress is a very good, reliable spinner. Rotom Frost is obviously the weakest, probably, of the Rotom gadgets,
I would
but
say it's I would say it's definitely the weakest of all the Rotoms, including OG Rotom.
uh,
Frost
but it's
has the
not.
worst typing.
Yeah, it's still for you can get a defog off on it. Cyclezar doesn't really want to run rapid spin because you want to run U-turn, shed tail,
Hmm.
and then overheat or Draco to do so you're not just a free setup for somebody. So I think that may be something to look at in the future, but you know if
Yeah,
someone's not ready and you get that free shed tail, this team could really win on one shed tail very quickly.
this team is definitely going to will live and die by the quality of the prep for Requiem. Like if he is prepping well and he's playing well, this team is going to be super scary. But if he doesn't, adjust to his opponent's prep well, or he doesn't get a little spicy and creative with some of his prep, he probably will run into some trouble. So I think this could be a really strong team, or it could flounder. And I feel like it's going to be one or the other, and I don't know
Uh,
which one it's going to be yet.
Yeah, I'm bringing Whirl. I'm bringing someone. This team is getting taunted, whirlwind, roared a lot,
Yeah.
a
Oh
lot.
yeah.
So that's another reason to make sure you get those hazards out of the way. But they're not. Most teams aren't running multiple of that, so you just got to break that one mon, and it's going to be tough to win. So this is still a good team. I think it's just going to be how You're right. So you're 100% right. If Requiem gets the prep right, he's going to be very tough to beat with the pieces he has.
All right.
Oh, and we have his.
One of our other mods for this
Yep.
draft.
Hysterically here. Garchomp, Terra, Annihilate, Iron Moth, Slowbro, Gardevoir, Skarmory, Jolteon, Terra, Zarude, Golduck, Terra, Miltank. And I wonder
Miltank.
why he picked up Golduck, Terra late. So really, as a veteran pick there, hysterically, that was probably after seeing the drafts, this was probably one of the best picks, other than getting like maybe a
Yeah,
licky.
I would say this is definitely like one of those that seems like a reaction pick, and it's probably a good call. You got two really scary weather teams, and so you might want to have a Cloud9 Golduck
Or
or a
Swift
Swiftstone
Gold.
Golduck,
Yeah,
depending on the situation.
that was a smart choice. But yeah, um, the first four for me are good. Oh my, very, very
Very
good.
strong picks.
Yep.
I'm definitely on board with all four of those mons. Garchomp, I think, has been underutilized this gen so far. Loaded dice skill shot should really be popping off more than it has. And then you add the fact that this Garchomp can be a Terra on top of it, so it can be a little more dangerous with the ground spam, where all of a sudden you just need to get that scale shot on, and then you don't even need the earthquake. You got that Terra ground with the earthquake spam, or you don't need that sword stand, sorry, and you just click in some earthquake damage, and you're going crazy. Or you lean into the rough skin and you turn into a more fun resist option of like a steel or something like that, and you're resisting a lot more, and so everyone hates you because they're just getting obliterated by your rough skin. Fun mon, or painful mon. I don't know which it's going to be yet with Fram.
Yeah, it's it's so strong. I mean, the spike boost I think makes it
Oh,
the
huge.
utility set just so good, and obviously the 102 speed with that much offense is good. I think Annihilate. This is probably a hot take, but I think Annihilate is borderline bannable. I think
He's been misused. It's been so Annihilate's one of the most fascinating mons to me right now in draft because I think everyone agrees it's a pretty good mon, but like it's not getting the result. I'm struggling to find leagues where it's getting those results where you're like, this thing sucks. I hate playing against it. It just destroys me. Like it on paper should be a bigger menace than it has been so far, but yes, I agree with you. It's one of those mons that you feel like is just could be bannable one day because it's so frustrating to play against.
I think I'm in our Quagsire Pond League. I think I've got it like 12-5. it's it's just
It's popping
Scarf.
off hills.
It's just
Yeah.
Scarf. I just run. I th- I think it's I think
90's
it's
a great scarf tier.
I think
And then
it's
with
I
Rage
think
Fist too.
yeah. Well, and Defiant. I think it's broken.
Yeah.
It's just
Yeah.
but the for me the whole thing is you just catch U-turns. That's the name of the game. You catch a U-turn, you take 4 times resist, and Rage Fist is now up 50. And
Yep.
someone, it's at 150 or 100, and someone, you force spikes, rocks, T spikes, and someone clicks defog, and all of a sudden you're at +2. You're the fastest thing on the field, and you're hitting with 150 base power ghost
Yep.
move.
I will say this team is going to have a hard time getting those free U-turns spammed at it because who
Oh
wants
yeah,
to click U-turn when there's a guard chomp right
yep,
there that's
true.
going to do, or a Skarmory right there that's going to quad resist it, or a
Yeah,
Slowbro. Those are three mons likely to have helmets or just the abilities that chip back, and then you got an Annihilate with a quad resist and Iron Moth with a quad resist. So I don't see a ton of U-turn in this team's
Oh, I
future.
was just saying I think it should be banned
Oh yeah.
personally. I think it's a bannable mod. But this is a good. This is I mean I think Jolteon will be the Terra a lot because it'll come. It's his fastest mon, and 130 speed, 110 with Terra Ice or Terra Grass
Yeah.
or Terra Water.
Unlock that Bolt Beam.
Yeah, it's very good. And I think Calm Mind Jolteon is with Terra kind of scary in draft here, knowing what you can probably get
Yes.
you can avoid getting O code. It'd probably get off a +1 and do a ton of damage. So I think
Absolutely.
this
I
team's
think
gonna.
my one concern with the team is that like it's it needs to be a great hazard setting team because its hazard control is kind of weak. Like you're pretty reliant on Skarmory to click defog. Actually, you're totally reliant on
Yep.
Skarmory to click defog if you want to remove hazards. Like this team has no problem setting its own. You got great spikers and stealthers with Garchomp and Skarmory. You got good rockers with Annihilate and Miltank. You got niche toxic spikes with Iron Moth. So like this team can certainly put up the hazards, but it's going to struggle to keep them from getting put up against themselves because they can't clear them. Skarmory doesn't really like running defog. That's like not the way Skarmory wants to be used. It wants to set its own hazards, not have to clear other ones off. So this feels like it'd be a race to just put a bunch of hazards up so that you kind of keep your opponents honest from hazard stacking on you. So you might be forced into running, spikes, stealth rock Skarmory a little more often, or spikes on Garchomp a little more often, just to keep hazards on both sides of the field at all times.
3 sets of
Uh,
boots.
yeah,
What is,
I mean, I've seen boots slow, bro. It's not my favorite thing in the world, but I've seen boots
I've
slow,
run
bro.
boots slow bro before. Uh, I mean, what did Pokeaim say recently? He said uh, hazard removal or hazard control is overrated. Stack fast and kill first. So I get it.
It's true.
It's not, and this team definitely kills quickly. I,
Yes.
I think the
The
only
only
thing as tough as it, he doesn't. Oh, Iron Moth. I was like, okay, yeah. It's the only one thing I would say is it doesn't look like there's a whole ton of a heavy hitting special, but then Iron Moth staring me right in the face at
yeah.
140.
I mean, if I was to make one suggestion to this team, is I don't see where Gardevoir pops on this team here. I feel
I
like
think
that
it
could
was
be.
a fairy pick.
I mean, I see the fairy. Like, and understandably, you want to have a fairy, and Gardevoir is an okay fairy, but I feel like there's just something better on the board. I'm sure than Gardevoir because Gardevoir in my experience just hasn't been like an exciting fairy mon. Like for the fairy role, it doesn't do it well enough. It just isn't bulky enough.
Well, he's only got
But
the dark spam is so prevalent this gen, and the fairy, and that's the one thing that I always for Screamtail too. You don't have a resist, and Gardevoir is pretty frail.
yes, I would concur with that statement. Gardevoir is not resisting a lot in the dark department. So I feel like that might need to be revisited at some point. I don't have a suggestion right now,
I'd
obviously,
have to see.
but
I need to look at the board, but it's again, I think this is still a
oh
very
yeah, very fun
solid.
team.
Yeah, Hysterically did a good job drafting here.
I would concur. Well done, sir.
All right, the last one is Snack. It's all you.
All right, we got the Chi-Yu, the Latias, the Scizor, the Slowking, the Megalop, the Amoonguss, the Togekiss, the Hisuian Electrode, the Runerigus, the Oricorio, the Terras being Scizor, Electrode, and Runerigus. This is a fun team.
Yeah, Chius. Another Gen 9 power creep that's just. There are a couple
I
mons that
like
are very good against it, but draft, you don't have that many options, it feels like.
no, and I love the Megalopony Chi-Yu card because like you get some pivot going on with the Megalop where you bait in certain things. Like you could bait in like a really fat psychic or like a some kind of bulk mon that is just not well situated to handle Chi-Yu. And the last thing you want to do is give Chi-Yu a free turn. So like the momentum core there to really enable a Chi-Yu, it could be concerning. I could really let it pop off a little bit.
Yeah, he's got the duo regen, two fat boys there. Just again, I think Amoonguss is one of my again, I don't love playing the big fat regen mon. And
No.
Amoonguss with the spore and toxic. This is it's tough. Um, the Terra captains I think are interesting. I don't know if I would have gone Scissor.
Mm,
I probably would have gone Lottie, but Scissor with the bullet
100%
punch
agreed.
does do a lot.
Yes, I do agree that Latias because Scizor isn't like a utility mon in the same way Latias is, where Latias can really be so many things, and so just giving it that Terra to let it be all of those things. Like create a Terra Poison Latias, so now you can really click those calm mindsets without worrying about getting toxic. You don't need to run sub anymore because you're not worried about that toxic being slapped on you, so you can just kind of get going with that more efficiently. Or you just want to get a little more firepower on your psychic or dragon moves because Latias is not the strongest. I think it's got like a 110
It's
special attack.
110,
Like
yeah.
it's not
It's just
terrible.
bulky.
Yeah, it's bulky, and so that's a great mon to Terra if your first pick isn't something that's going to be hardcore firepower. If you don't, Chiyu obviously is banned for good reasons. Like since Chiyu can't be your Terra because Chiyu would be just absurd clicking its moves. I think Latias is a better option than Scizor. And that might be worth revisiting because I think you can get more out of Terra Latias. Because, like you said, Bullet Punch Scizor, great, cool, very scary. What else you got, though? It just feels like you're just going to enable stronger Bullet Punch. And Scizor doesn't even want to drop either of its typings all that much because it's got a good type combination.
Yep, no, you're right. It wants that. It wants to keep it. The one thing, you have one rocker, no spikes, and one toxic spiker, and it's something that's probably not coming to a lot of games considering your first 7 or 8. Because
Oh, yeah.
I think that might be tough for you. Obviously, I think it'll obviously have to come for any game that has a really scary um, electric type that's not Terra. But other than that, it may not be coming to a lot of games. Obviously, you can Electro Sui and Amoonguss and even Latias to a point are pretty good absorbers of Volt, but he's still free momentum.
Yeah. And you can only give up so much free momentum before things start to break.
Yep. Yeah, especially if you're not
Uh,
running boots on everything.
Yeah. I think your point is very valid. The lack of hazards and the limited hazard control, like it's there. Scizor can defog, Latias can defog. Neither of them like to do that. Togekiss can be a good defogger, but
I
again,
think
those
it's
are
a
just
better defogger
restricting.
now than a Scarfer now that Covert Cloak's here. I think you're
This
almost.
is true.
Again, you might force a Covert Cloak on something, but the days of that are numbered.
Yeah, like if you're using Togekiss as a Serene Grace flincher for more than like one or two games, then people are going to react accordingly, and then Togekiss loses all of its value because Togekiss is this entire like niche sometimes offensively is just being like a hacksmon that just clicks one button, it clicks air slash and continues to click air slash until your opponent can go, 30 turns later, finally, when it runs out of PP.
Or they just click the close window button.
Or the close window button, also very accurate.
But that being said, I do think with the offensive pressure is pretty good with Chiyu,
Oh yeah.
Megalop. I think throwing future sights off and then teleporting into, that they bring the dark type in, teleporting into either your scissor to click U-turn or Megalop to click, a CC or a U-turn.
Mm-hmm.
It's a pretty good combo that can be pretty tough to deal with. So I think there's some good combinations here, but I think the hazards thing is what worries me the most.
I agree. Because like the team has great bulk. We got the double regen core with both like to leaning the opposite way. Amoonguss likes to go more physical usually. Slowking likes to go more special. Scizor offers alternative physical bulk. Latias offers alternative special bulk. So like you got really great bulk. You got some really solid firepower. It'd just be a real shame if you get beat up week after week because you can't handle the hazards. And you can, but like it's just a waste of time. You get forced into cleaning them off, and you don't threaten back. And when you don't threaten back, your opponents are really incentivized to, force rocks up because then all of a sudden they just either force defox turns from you, which is lost turns, or they force you to keep taking chip. And Chiyu doesn't want to be restricted to boots every week. Otherwise, Chiyu loses a lot of its potency where it could be doing some fun things. I've seen things like a jetpack overheat, so you can get your overheat on into the resist and then come back in with some more offense. I've seen obviously subsets with leftovers or Scarf or Specs. So to lose some of that utility because you're having to fight hazards so much would be unfortunate.
Yeah, I think Chiyu's debatably the premier scarfer in the meta.
Yes.
I think your 100 is a decent speed tier. It's not as great as it once was, but with the scarf, you outspeed almost everything, and so it for you.
Everything bar lucky.
Yep, you're forcing people to prep a scarf faster than Chiyu, and they're running a ton of. They're not running modest or adamant on that scarf most of the time too. So
Mm-hmm.
it's a lot. It's not a bad team. I think there's a
No,
couple holes that might be exploited, but you might be able to make just a couple small adjustments, and I think you might really be on a really strong path here.
I concur. I think, like I said, I think we're both in agreement. This has definitely got the potentials of a solid team. I might suggest looking at the Scizor Terra and looking to maybe make a change there. But you can play a few games first, see if you can do things with Scizor we're not seeing.
He's gonna
I
be
just
playing
think,
Sword Stance and Steel Bullet Punch
yeah,
and win 2 games, and we're gonna be wrong.
and that's fine. I mean, that's the set we're calling out what it can do. In my experience using Latias in draft in Gen 8, it's just always a little lacking. Like it's always right on the cusp of doing something useful, but it just quite can't break into that spot. It's a little fragile, or not fragile, but a little weak, or sometimes it's not as bulky as you need, or it just has the wrong typing. So I feel like Latias gets a little more out of it, but maybe Swords Dance Bullet Punch is just going to win you. And who are we to say otherwise?
Huh.
What works works.
I think that was the last of them. So,
That was the
any
last one.
any final thoughts?
No, like we said, we weren't really doing rankings for Initiate. That's not really how we like to approach this division, because we know, there's multiple coaches every season that are getting in a draft for the first time. We're not here to criticize and insult drafts. We understand folks are learning. All that said, this was, I think, overall a really, really strong draft from Initiate. Um, can't wait till we get to some of the garbage in Master and try
My
to say
team's
how
so
it's
bad.
logical. we have some pretty rough drafts comparatively, so I think you guys did a really awesome job with your drafts overall.
And you guys
There's a
torched
couple of
right through it.
yeah. You guys were quick and efficient, so somehow you took less time than everyone to have better drafts. So overall, really well done. The coaches we maybe made some comments on with some adjustments. You don't have to listen to us. Obviously, we're probably wrong. We're probably dumb. But if you run into those issues, then maybe take a second peek around and see if any of those changes will help.
Yeah, best division finished first. You guys were great. I think you
Yeah.
guys all. I mean, every team here's got some really good things going for it. So you guys did a really good job.
Absolutely. So thank you again to Helix for both joining this power rankings and being the host as I was having some very frustrating audio issues. So huge shout out to him for all his prep work there and getting this rolling for today. So thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Aw, shucks. Thank you. All right, guys. It was a pleasure. Looking forward to the season with you guys and watching some of these games, particularly the Rain Sun. That's the premier game for me.
I need to check that it's happening. This is the
Well, we
most
need to,
important
yeah, we need to
information.
cheat. We need to CLDL cheat that schedule. Make it game 9 or 8 or something.
I don't even know what the coaches' names were. We'll figure it out in Discord. But if that match is happening, we'll make a big deal out of it.
Yeah.
So
All
prepare
right,
yourselves.
guys. This was awesome. Glad you guys got done quickly, and look forward to the season.
Peace.
Bye, guys.